What if I told you I was so good at The Last of Us Part 2 that I could play the entire game without receiving a single hit of damage? Of course, I'd be lying because the amount of emotional damage taken during this game alone is astronomical. But still, so many encounters in the game are difficult to make it through even after playing them multiple times, so I wanted to see, can you beat The Last of Us Part 2 without taking any damage? So, how are we measuring damage taken? Well, on most of the difficulties, you get this handy dandy HUD with your health constantly displayed in the lower right corner. Grounded removes that HUD, so we have to play on Survivor here to be absolutely certain for the entire run that we are taking no damage. I'll be referring to the HUD to tell if I've taken damage the entire playthrough, but consumables will also say full to tell me I haven't taken damage. There are also a few visual indicators for certain sections where you can't see the HUD that tell you you've taken damage, but basically, anytime we take any amount of damage, we must restart the checkpoint and try again. If there are any parts I can't make it past, I'm also not considering glitches or skips. We're playing this the entire way through.
I gotta see it through.
So let's get right into it, starting with Jackson. Okay, literally 5 minutes into the gameplay section of the game, and we can't do this challenge. It's over.
Failure.
Thanks for watching, like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, just kidding, but right away in Jackson, Abby gets grabbed by the very first living runner we come across in this scripted event and automatically takes damage. This is unavoidable, so we do need to add a counter for the number of times we have taken damage in this playthrough. The rest of Abby's Jackson segment of the game is pretty easy, but does require some dodging and running away from runners. Surely Ellie would never do this to me. Abby may have ruined the playthrough, but at least our count for damage taken is just at 1. This part is so simple, all we need to do is take out these supermarket runners and nope, Ellie ruined it for me too. There's a scripted event where a runner jumps on top of Ellie and causes her unavoidable damage, so we have now taken damage twice, and there is absolutely nothing we can do about it. Ellie slips into this pharmacy and doesn't take damage from the fall, so the rest of this section can be done without taking damage, so long as we don't let a clicker snack on us. Surely Joel won't lose the no damage challenge, right? Son of a bit. Okay, well, at least during the playable parts of Joel, he couldn't take damage. Jackson is a bit messy, but we make it through and head to Seattle for day 1. The open area of Seattle is pretty chill, and there are only a few encounters you're required to do. I chose to run past the infected outside the temple, and the courtroom I just snuck by the first section and then fought the garage without much difficulty. You need to fight some infected at the Saravina, but that's not too hard either. Shortly after, Dina and Ellie get ambushed, Shimmer loses the challenge, and Ellie gets knocked out. This looks pretty painful, but luckily, Ellie wakes up with no health lost, so we can say this does not add to our counter. I made it through the elementary school in one piece, snuck around all the wolf patrolling this big outside area, and headed through some tripwire traps to the news station. My biggest hater was waiting for me as this runner literally got blown in half and still tried to cause me damage. Like, bro, you just lost most of your body, maybe worry about that? Channel 13 has an easy strat of setting a trap mine right here so that when the wolf bursts through the door, they literally burst open, but at least they die together. The subway is just stealth all the way until you get past the infected. Ma'am, no, I'm sorry, the kitchen closes at 9, we cannot take any more orders. While climbing up a train, it crashes and Ellie gets grabbed by a runner, which Dina kills. No damage on my HUD here. Ellie gets grabbed 2 more times in scripted events on the way out of the subway, but neither time does damage. That's a wrap on day 1, and then we get to explore the dinosaur museum.
Look at me! I'm on a motherfucking dinosaur!
Ellie does get knocked over by a boar here, but it doesn't cause her health bar to go down, so Ellie Day One and the flashback are good to go with no damage taken. Ellie Day Two has a few infected encounters and some wolves you encounter in a street, but you can basically sneak by all of those and avoid all the infected. Then, a stalker does grab Ellie in the garage when she gets the bow, but luckily it doesn't do any damage. In Hillcrest, you can easily stealth your way through. This part is so hard the first time you play it, but it's insanely easy once you learn the paths to take. That's not even a brag, I just have too many hours in this game. You're forced into combat with smoke bombs in this basement section, which is a little annoying because one of the wolves hangs back with a pistol, but I managed to take these enemies out without getting hit. Then we head upstairs, and for a no damage run, you would think I'd try to avoid combat, and that's exactly what this machete wolf thought too, but unfortunately, I had too much ammo, and I needed to let some of that out of my pistol. I meet up with my girlfriend's baby daddy. Yeah, not you. Yep, that's the one. And we get in this car without too much of an issue. During the car chase, wolves shoot at you and you can take damage here. There isn't a health bar on screen for this, but there are visual indicators and sound effects when you get hit, so you can still tell. I managed to get it so none appeared, so I don't believe you have to take damage here, but there is no health indicator to confirm this. After you crash, you get grabbed by a runner in the car, and it didn't seem like this caused damage. In Finding Strings, just stealth kill the infected in the lobby to make it easier to avoid damage. No more spawn if you stealth kill the ones that are already in the lobby.
Joel, I think we did it.
The bloater fight is stressful because you have to let the bloater grab you at some point, but I checked after and it doesn't do damage, so we're all clean. Back to the present day, the stalkers can just be avoided by running past them in the first section, and in the second part when you drop down into a lower level, I used my shotgun for good measure. After going through the door to leave the section, a stalker grabbed me in a scripted event and took me for a swim, but it didn't do any damage. Shout out stalkers for being respectful of my challenge. Also, I forgot to mention the wolf deserters who ambush you when you go to use a specific workbench. You can avoid them, but I wanted to have fun, so I took them out too. Of course, right after this, we meet the very peaceful and reasonable group known as the Seraphites. In this first encounter with them, there's a scripted arrow shot that gives you damage. This is unavoidable, and Ellie does unfortunately take damage here. The second Seraphite section can be done in stealth. There's a brute Seraphite that breaks through the door and grabs you, throws you over the counter, but it doesn't cause damage. I took out this guy and then made sure to carefully take out his friends who try to shoot me, and then made my way through an extremely slow door. We make a stop to say hi to our best gamer friend Whitney, and damn it Whitney, must be those violent video games. You can sneak into the hospital very easily and don't need to kill anyone here. Also, I feel like no one ever talks about the fact that you can hear the song Good Day by Ice Cube playing while you're climbing in the vents, and I find it fascinating they paid for that, because this is not going to be a good day for anyone involved. Then Ellie goes to confront Nora, and man does this line go hard.
You shoot me. The sound will have every soldier come running.
You'll still be dead.
Oh my god, Ellie. Ice in the veins. After this, you get shot at by the wolf while chasing her, but they miss you, so no damage from them. The basement section is also pretty easy to just distract the clickers and make them eat the wolves down there. Then we make Nora talk. After a friendly conversation with Nora, we start day 3, and this section is a lot shorter than the first 2 days, so there are few opportunities to take damage, but never zero. The wolf patrols on the streets can be stealthily avoided, even though they saw me at the end of the first one, but their bullets missed me, so it's fine. The flooded mall section was kind of annoying. I did have to use a few checkpoints here, but it is possible after swimming around and trying to be stealthy. The only hard part about it is once you get in the boat. I could get to the boat just fine with no damage, but there are 2 guys who jumped down from the section right near the boat, and there's another patrol right by that. I killed all of them, but still more people saw their bodies and saw me trying to steal a boat, so I basically just killed a bunch of wolves and prayed when I got in the boat that they wouldn't hit me. I could have and probably should have just killed all of them, but I tried to be merciful and leave a few alive so they could warn the others not to even try ruining my challenge. In the boat section, I came across a few wolves, and they are also massive haters, yelling out as they get murdered by scars, like, the scars are right in front of you. Once again, this is what happens when you don't mind your business. The arcade bloater is easy because I hoarded so much ammo it took like 30 seconds to take him out. Now we're clear. The waves that hit Ellie as she swims to the aquarium don't cause any damage, so those are fine. Of course, in one of the very last possible sections for Ellie's half of the game, as Ellie falls from the air vent, Alice jumps on her and causes unavoidable damage. Honestly, I do feel like this damage is a little bit deserved because I felt pretty awful killing Alice and really wish the writers didn't force that upon us. Especially because in all the rest of the game, you actually don't need to kill any other dogs. So cruel. We tango with Mel and Owen and don't really even see our HUD for the rest of this part of the game, but I think it's safe to assume we don't take damage here since we only really struggle a little bit with Mel. So, with Ellie's half of the game done, we have taken damage a total of 4 times. Now let's see if we can make it through Abby's half of the game without taking any more damage. Okay, Abby, we might still be mad at you for murdering Joel, but maybe you can make it up to us by not taking damage in this half of the game, yeah? The stadium section is really cool, and I kept thinking about that person who was scoping out their seat for the Taylor Swift concert in Lumen Field by playing this game. After we leave the stadium, we get a fun car chase with the Scars. A Scar chase, if you will.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Anyway, this is probably the hardest part of the game to avoid damage in. It's not a particularly difficult or lengthy section on its own, but the amount of RNG involved in this is awful. You have to be really quick to kill the first 4 Scars, or they will cause damage to you. Then, another appears on your left and tries to shoot you. The problem is, even if you shoot him, there are about 4 or 5 more further down that try to snipe you and basically always hit their mark. Even if you stay in cover and don't aim your gun, you can still take damage. So the best strat is to kill them all as fast as possible, but there's also so much luck involved because they may or may not hit you depending on what the computer feels like doing. Also, if you kill the Scars in front of you, then more will spawn, so it's just a complete mess. When you turn a corner and get chased by a couple more enemies, this last part actually isn't that hard if you just shoot them, plus you do get a checkpoint. You can take damage here, but it seems to happen far less frequently. So really the beginning and the middle section of this encounter are the hardest parts. The Scar's accuracy is random and you might just get unlucky and get shot. The thing I noticed is after playing this encounter a few times, I ended with different amounts of health, which confirms that it wasn't just scripted to give you the same amount of health each time for this section. So I realized that this was not mandatory damage. I did have to admit some defeat and lower the difficulty because the enemies on Survivor are just too good. This was the only section of the run I had to do this for, but when I completed this section, I did have full health, so this won't add to our counter. Okay, so after the mess that was the Scar chase, I got to this warehouse and sprinted past the infected. Also, making sure to ignore this runner that grabbed Manny. Well, Manny, if you want help, maybe you should have helped me during the car chase. Did you think of that? Abby completely fails to climb a shelf, which crashes onto her, but she doesn't take any damage. The infected here are easy to just keep a distance from and pick off with Mel and Manny. The train tracks with the Scar Patrol can be done in stealth. The gas station part just requires you to hide behind a counter, and I did shoot one Scar because they were getting a good angle on me. We go to the fob, have a little flashback, and then on to Chinatown. Immediately, a clicker grabs Abby but doesn't do any damage, and we can headshot it. We make a very calculated, complete sprint through this building full of infected, and then we get to the sniper section, which has a ton of tall grass, so we just use that and get by the Scars on patrol here. In the office building right after, Abby can also sneak by, but when you slide down, this giant Seraphite grabs you and 3 others pin her down. Then we don't see our HUD until after we take out a few stalkers, but if we dodge them, we can see we take no damage. Abby was a little hungry earlier and bit the Seraphite's ear off, so we get a pissed off boss fight right here, but just dodge, and it's not too bad. The holdout was pretty stressful because it's such a small space, but the only real challenge here is the Shamblers, so I stayed clear of them, killed them, and then made my way through this ambulance to the rest of day 1, which really only involved running through the shipping container area, running through the ferry, and running to Owen's boat for some story time.
I hit this one on the head, and he goes down, and he's old and tired. He was just ready.
Man, that was a powerful and emotional scene. I'm sure fans will remember that for the acting and nothing else. The Seraphites in the shipping area aren't a big deal. I ended up just killing this one guarding the door, but if you sneak by, you can easily do this with no damage. We bring Yara back to the aquarium, and then we go with Lev to get some supplies for Yara's arm. There are some infected in the ground area, and we kind of just run by them. Then we come across some Seraphites in this office building, and they're kind of aggressive, but they're pretty manageable. On the roof, you can avoid most of the Seraphites here, but I did have to kill the one near the exit area just because they were kind of in the way. The rest of them didn't even see me though, so this was pretty easy. Next, we do our best Gwen Stacy impression, but luckily we actually land in the hotel pool. And if I had a nickel for every time I fell off a bridge and landed in water in The Last of Us, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Okay, well, technically 3 times. In the hotel, dodging is our best friend because if you can dodge a stalker, you can dodge a ball. We make our way down the hotel, carefully avoiding the infected, and being careful not to wake up any of the stalkers that are in the wall. I had to crawl by these clickers and bloater in this one part, but for the most part, it's pretty easy. As we enter the hospital, we run into some trouble. During the basement section, we run into a few clickers and there's a stalker in the wall, but we can just slip by them. Then we deal with the second scariest enemy in the game behind emotional trauma, the Rat King, who rudely grabs Abby twice, once through a hole in the wall and once when she grabs the axe stuck in the door handle. The HUD is visible during both sequences, and neither time did I lose any health. The Rat King itself isn't too bad because I had a ton of ammo, and the game gives you a lot to work with, so just keep a distance, avoid its charges, and absolutely sink everything you have into the Rat King to take it down because this thing is a bullet sponge. Eventually, an armored stalker breaks off, and bro, that probably felt amazing to get some fresh air. Well, fresh as you can get in the basement of a hospital. We have to dodge its attacks while we take out the Rat King, and then we move on to take on the armored stalker. The armored stalker grabs Abby in this air vent, but this doesn't do any damage. Fighting it is a little trickier to me than fighting the Rat King just because it's so small, moves around so much, and it can take a surprising amount of damage. It also throws spore pockets at you, but I just tried to take it out as quick as possible and avoided taking any damage. We make it out with some surgery supplies, and we get back to Yara, who fortunately is gonna be alright.
You're a piece of shit, Abby.
On to day 3, the sniper section is annoying, but Tommy can't do much while you're on the street as long as you stay in cover. When you get to the parking garage, Tommy suddenly becomes insanely accurate unless you kill all of the infected and stay in cover. Aimbot much? I usually just run to the end of this part, but I kept taking damage from Tommy, so I took out all the infected and then carefully made my way forward. I had to take a lot of cover, but confronted Tommy and he pushed me into this railing, but that didn't do damage because when I next controlled Abby, she had full health. On the Seraphite Island, the first encounter is fine, just take out a few enemies and sneak by. The farm area is another one that lends itself to stealth, which I'd normally suggest for a damage-free run, but I had so much ammo, so I just took them all out. Once we lose Yara, we go into a brewery, and I snuck by the wolves here because there are just too many angles and too many people to deal with, even though I was foaming at the mouth, wanting to just obliterate them. The area with the fast food restaurant is one of the easiest places to just let the wolves and the Seraphites take each other out because there are so many places to hide and so much tall grass, but I had a ton of ammo, so I ended up taking them out. And I actually took out too many Seraphites, so the wolves won this fight, but then I killed them too with my absurd amount of ammo. Might have been overkill. The horse riding section is a little bit annoying because there are a few enemies that shoot at you, but mainly the only ones that can give you damage are the other ones on horseback. So I shot them before they could shoot me, and then I ended this section without taking any damage. The final area with a bunch of wolves and Seraphites was a bit annoying because there's so much gunfire, and again, I still had so much ammo to use in this final section, and I couldn't let that go to waste. The wolves kept trying to shoot me, and the Seraphites wanted to kill Lev, but I managed to take out a few and let them take out enough of each other to give me a clear path to finish this encounter damage-free. I don't know about you guys, but this little balance beam part is so stressful to me, and it's nothing to do with the no damage run, but I've died here a few times on a per chapter permadeath run, and it just triggers me. Finally, the Brute Seraphite outside of the burning building grabs Abby in the middle of their fight, which is unavoidable. But right after this, we can't see our health or heal to confirm if this does damage. I'm leaning towards no for this since occasionally enemies grab you and don't do damage, plus we do have full health when we next see our HUD at the start of the Ellie fight. Speaking of the Ellie fight, this isn't too bad once you learn Ellie's attack patterns, but after the second round of hitting Ellie, she does stab us, and this gives us some unavoidable damage. The good news is, the rest of the fight isn't too hard, but Ellie is self-sabotaging this playthrough here by stabbing me. What the heck? We get to heal a little bit with some sheep, and then are quickly thrown back into the trauma and thirst for revenge and closure. In Santa Barbara, there are a few infected you can come across as Abby, but just ignore them. Alright, I played this game before, I know someone's out there, you are not getting me this time. Abby gets beaten up pretty badly by the Rattlers in a cutscene, but we don't control her again, and we don't see our HUD during this, so we can't definitively say that this does damage. As Ellie, very calmly make your way past a bunch of infected, and you get snagged in a trap, where you get impaled by a tree branch. When you play as Ellie again, her health is full, so this doesn't count. The street section is pretty easy to sneak by and kill a few Rattlers for good luck. The door at the end takes like 2 seconds to open, so that was clutch. The resort entrance is also pretty easy. I let my boy Anthony go free so he could get a snack.
Bet you wish you didn't try to escape now, don't you, Anthony?
And to distract them, and it worked. The resort area was pretty tough, mostly because I didn't want to do this part in stealth, and instead I just kind of played aggressively. I was able to use a lot of checkpoints in order to get this done with no damage, but I also made it a lot more complicated than it needed to be.
Hey, what do you say we eat some of them?
Yes, I had to free everyone from the Rattlers, even the infected. Because technically Ellie's infected too, and her and Abby have both taken a bite out of people before. So why not? It was fun, and I made it through without taking any damage. Alright, I know we have an enemy on the other side of this door waiting for us, and I'm not letting that happen again.
It's fooled me once. Shame on you. It fooled me, we can't get fooled again.
Well, that didn't work. This lady with the baseball bat jumps us, and since there's no HUD for the rest of the game, we can't definitively say that we did take damage here, so I'm not going to count it. We also never see our HUD again, but we do rescue Abby, and we do face her in a fight where you can take damage, but there's no HUD to tell you. So we just get through this without getting hit, and we're pretty much done. So at the end of the game, we have taken damage a total of 5 times. Honestly, this should count as damage too, because emotionally, I cannot handle this. It's so sad. Like, why? All of these are unavoidable or scripted events, so the rest of the game is manageable without taking damage, and for the most part, it's not too hard. The infected sections, in my opinion, are the easiest, since most of the infected don't have ranged attacks, and they're more predictable than humans, though sometimes they would grab me. Emotionally, I will never recover, but otherwise I was able to heal and move on. Overall, this was a pretty fun challenge, and it was a lot more satisfying than my pacifist runs because, well, I got to play a lot more aggressively, even at the cost of using checkpoints.
I want what you want, but not at any cost.
Wrong, Owen. It's actually very fun and cool to use explosive arrows, even if we have to use checkpoints. I've done several The Last of Us Part 2 challenge videos, including no killing survivors and no scavenging, so be sure to check those out if you haven't already. I may try something different and create a video tying in Part 1 with the HBO show, so keep an eye out for that as well. If you enjoy gaming challenge videos, then be sure to subscribe to Epic Cakes Gaming, and drop a like and tell me your thoughts on this video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.